All right, it is 6:30. We are waiting for Mr. Dunkley and I believe Mark Snow, but we do have David here. So I am going to call our June 2nd meeting to order. Additions to the agenda this evening, we are joined by Sheriff Mark Anderson. We are a little bit behind as far as contract discussion. Usually that happens, I believe, in May. But obviously COVID has messed up a lot of things. So we will get to that tonight. The board was sent around the revised contract that Mark sent the other day. And we are also going to add no passing zone on Pond Road for discussion. We received a email from a resident about that. So does anybody else have additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I think we should acknowledge that Phil Nelson, who worked for the town for a long time, passed away this weekend.
Oh.
Thank you, Sandy. Can I get a motion for the additions to the agenda, please?
So
So
moved.
move.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Ms. Carr. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. I'm not sure who just came in on the 6842 number.
That would be Mark Snow.
Mark Snow. Okay, thank you. All right.
You're welcome.
Chair's remarks. I actually wrote something down, so bear with me. I'm deeply saddened, hurt, discouraged, and frustrated with the state of our great country. The events that have unfolded over the last week are heartbreaking. In no way do I condone the looting or the rioting. However, their expression of pain is real. We all too often get comfortable in our little town, and I am truly grateful that we are able to have this community to feel comfortable in. The other night, I was talking to my two boys as I try not to hide the harsh realities of our world from them. I feel if we do not pay attention and openly communicate with our children, we will never break the patterns of history. During that conversation, I was challenged to answer the hardest question of my parental career. My oldest son, who turns 14 on Thursday, is a young Black man. He asked me, "Dad, why do they hate us?" That is a question that I will never find the words to answer for my son. Instead, I was forced to accept the fact that my own child will forever be treated differently than me based on nothing more than the color of his skin. We are not free from this hate in our safe community. During this time, it is important that we listen, we watch, and we actually hear so that we can make changes. Hate has no place in this community. Please be kind to each other, and that's all that I have for that. With that, we will accept an update from Mr. Emery and Mr. Snow on the COVID-19, please.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, we are not out of the woods yet. However, things are a little bit better in each day and each week. We seem to be progressing. In the state of Vermont right now, there's been 35, as of today, 35,326 tests, 983 positive. And the good news is right now there's 0 hospitalized with COVID. However, there's 23 being watched. The sad news is we've lost 25 souls to the COVID. So with that, I would just say that, you know, the stress in all our lives continues. The virus continues to cause the stress. And as you just mentioned, Mr. Chairman, the world has other issues now to overcome. The things continue to relax and open up. Larger groups, 25 is the magic number now. However, the 25 means that you still have to practice the 6 foot and mask. Restaurants are opening up on the seating on the outside. And I'm sure that we'll hear from Seth shortly about the complications of the recreation areas. Campgrounds are now opening up. However, with that, I can tell you that I've seen a larger amount of out-of-state people that are moving into campgrounds. And if I was going to take a bet, I'm betting that they aren't in there for the 14 days that they should be. However, so with that, it's probably safe to say that Vermont will see a pretty good influx of out-of-state people coming in. There's still the controversy part of whether you should or shouldn't wear the mask. And I'm just going to reiterate again that the mask protects both of you. It protects me from you coughing on me. It does that. So I know that I still wear one, and it's kind of strange when you try to talk through them, but I think we'll get used to it. There is still not a vaccine. However, there's progress on this vaccine. Vermont continues to be one of the 3 lowest states that has suffering the infection. But we need to follow the guidelines of the governor and the CDC. Don't let your guard down. So with that, this week's reports from some of the groups, Reverend Burks on the food says that everything's status quo and nothing's jumped out that's been a problem. Mary Ross at the school indicates pretty much the same thing. Everything's going well. You do know that they had a food distribution at Brattleboro where Vernon residents or anybody in Windham County was eligible. However, I also understand there was out-of-staters participating in that. And they had, I'm going to just recall, over 900 vehicles. So they passed out a tremendous amount of food. Chief Capon at the fire department reports that they are loosening up and lightening up. They started filling swimming pools. However, it appears that we're back in the winter, so maybe that won't go too far. But he's starting to filling swimming pools. EMS is back training some, and again, following the guidelines of 6 foot apart. If there's more than one person and a piece of fire apparatus, they are still wearing masks and cleaning the apparatus, wiping it down after they get back. Probably the best news I could share is Vernon Green is still no active cases, and that's awesome that they've been able to do that. The rec department, as I said, Seth will be having a conversation, I'm sure. Volunteers, we did send out and help a person at Huckle Hill with some air conditioning installations and stuff like that. The only thing, we're still into this thing until June 15th. June 15th, whether or not things are extended or yet to know. At that time, I was going to mention that the town of Vernon declared a state of emergency. We declared that with the guidelines following the state. So I'm guessing, and I will throw it out unless you prefer anything different, that we would remain with that condition until the state relaxes that particular option of the state of emergency. And that's where I'm at. So I'll turn it over to the health officer, Mr. Snow.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I just have a couple things to add to Mr. Emery's presentation. And one is in regards to the state of Vermont and Governor Scott. They do continue to reopen the state slowly. They're looking at their modeling, and they indicate that the modeling continues to have a positive outlook, which is great news. So the state continues to relax some restrictions. However, with that, there is a message from the governor and that is be smart and be safe. The other part that I'd like to talk about is on the website, healthvermont.gov. There is traveler information now provided on that website. So people can go to what's that? People can go to the healthvermont.gov website and look at the traveler guidelines and information. The other part to travelers, the state is recommending anyone coming to Vermont is strongly encouraged to sign up for daily symptoms check reminders. They can get fast, easy, and free reminders by email, text, or phone, and to check yourself for symptoms. They have access to the health department for guidelines and information quickly if symptoms are developed. And the public health team is there to contain the spread of the COVID-19. That's pretty much what I have to share at this moment. Not sure if anyone has questions.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none. Any questions from guests?
Rob,
Oh, go ahead.
probably my only question is to maybe to Dave, is if we can get help figuring out what the building capacity is for the town office building, just as we are anticipating our planning.
Gene, I'm sorry, you broke up. Get help with what?
Chief, she's looking for the maximum building occupancy for the town building.
Okay. I'll work with the fire department on that. That is actually a fire code, your occupancy. And it's based on numerous things, standing and sitting. And each, are you more interested in the whole building? Because we can look at the whole building specifically or a room specifically.
So
The
I
way
believe,
The way things stand right now, the whole building has to be considered, even though there's separate areas. That's what I was made to understand from the state. I did try to contact the fire chief because I know that's where that's supposed to come from, but I haven't heard from him, so.
I'll take care of that, Gene.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
and Dave, that was a question that I had been asked earlier, was the potential of reopening the town office building, maybe starting slow with the clerk's office and keeping the treasurer by appointment only. And so I guess at some point over the next couple of weeks, we would be looking for some guidance on that if there isn't already some out there.
Yes, there is guidance, and it's pretty limited at this point. There's the 6-foot rule, and in your case, in the clerk's case, I'm pretty sure we can make that work if everyone decides. I know that for the lack of knowing what they call the shielding, I guess, if you will, has been installed on both the clerk's office and the treasurer's office. I haven't been in to see it, but I understand it's in. So I guess I would get a hold of Tom probably and come in and we can figure out exactly what might be a good plan.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know if I was on. Staff met today to discuss this very thing because there seems to be, the spigot, as the governor calls it's opening up little by little. And we, given that there are some people still that are working within the building with some health concerns as well. The thought was for the next week or so, week and a half to 2 weeks, listening to the governor, and what he does is to try to keep this current situation that we have by appointment with the clerk and the work that the treasurer collector's been doing, both with phone and other types of communication for the next week and a half or so to keep that standard. I did talk to the staff today about the end of June is coming, and we have to look at what we're going to do relative to people that have been out on health-related issues with doctor's notes. The recommendation, Mr. Chairman, at least for the next week and a half or so, to see what happens, is to keep things as status quo. They seem to be working well, and anyone who needs information has been able to receive that in a timely and complete manner.
Okay. So I think that that's all great. I certainly want to make sure that everybody in that office is comfortable. I do think that I would like to have you and David set something up so that we could have something outlined, so that when we are ready to turn it a little bit more, we can have that plan in place. If we could set that up, that would be great.
Be glad to do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. I'll get a hold of you, Tom, and we can talk and get together.
All right. Thank you, David.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you both. Any other questions for Mark or Dave? Seeing none, gentlemen, thank you very much. Always appreciated for the updates and everything that you guys do. Have a great night.
All right. I'll hang around for a minute and see if there's anything that pops up. I want to hear what Seth's got for a plan.
Oh, great.
Well,
I'll
that's
be
it.
on. I'll be on for a while as well.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess let's just start out with, well, where do I start out? Wow.
No kidding.
I wanted to touch base on the basketball courts and the tennis courts. As you all are aware, that we were, I guess, permitted to open these several weeks back, but we were hesitant to do so based on the guidelines and restrictions that were in place, gathering sizes of 10, etc. With some of those being loosened, the Recreation Board met last evening, and with the Select Board's blessing, we would like to open both the tennis and the basketball court up, to use as the guidelines allow to Vermont residents and those who have met the quarantine requirements. The playground itself will still need to be maintained, being closed along with the shelter area. So if that is something that you guys are comfortable with, maybe perhaps somebody could entertain a motion to open the park area basketball courts and tennis courts at this time.
So moved.
I have a question.
Sure.
I understand that that could be done with like signage for 6-foot distancing. Are they?
Yeah.
Also?
Outdoor requirements, they wouldn't necessarily be required to wear masks while they're playing tennis or they're playing basketball.
Okay.
I did pick up several signs today. That is a requirement in order to do this. So those signs are at the pool and ready to be put out, providing that we have, we have the all systems go here.
Yep.
Essentially, the signs will, will outline the arrive, leave, play mentality that has been, requested by the state. It'll touch base on, contact games are not permitted. And we'll go from there and see how it plays out. The fact that their gathering sizes of 25 are now permitted should make the policing of, when I say policing, I don't necessarily mean specific police department. I mean policing from our perspective, recreation department, of the courts a little bit easier. The gathering sizes of 10 was something that we were pretty concerned with how we were going to, if we said, hey, basketball courts are open, we figured we were going to get kind of flooded with some people right away, and it was going to be tough to keep within that standard. So changing the gathering size, I think it'll be beneficial.
Yeah, good. Sounds like you've got everything well at hand.
We have a plan in place anyways, I will say that. I'm sure there will be many challenges that we have not thought of, but we will work through them.
Great.
We do have a motion from Ms. Carr to
Was from
open.
Sandy.
I'm sorry?
That was from
I'm
Sandy.
sorry. Yes,
I'll
that is from
second it.
Sandy. And yes, all right. So we have a motion and a second All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Perfect. There you go, man. I know you've been waiting for that one.
Yeah,
Now let's go on to the next.
we'll get the basketball and tennis courts open. Like I said, playground and shelter area will remain, will stay closed. We'll move
Yep.
some signs. We'll put some new signs up, and we'll get some people out there. So I know that the town will be happy to hear this.
Seth, can I ask you one question? I'm sorry, I had somebody pull into my driveway, so I may have missed it.
Sure.
The pavilion and anybody that has already given deposits for that, what's going on with that? Are we holding off, calling people?
No, I actually, the recreation board last evening, we made the decision to, actually I spoke with your mom today, to cancel all shelter reservations for this summer. Taking it week by week and making phone calls based on a weekly basis was going to be pretty tough, if regulations change. So we have canceled all shelter rentals. Many rentals have chosen to just take their deposit money and push it off and use it for 2021. Normally, we don't allow rentals beyond 1 year to the calendar day, so that somebody can't say yes, I'm going to take it for the next 10 years and not allow others to have opportunity. But given the circumstances, we did allow those that already have it this year to keep the same date next year. So that has taken place, and we'll go from there. The gathering sizes of many of these family reunions and such, and where people travel from to get here, was something that we felt we just couldn't do.
Sure. Understood.
Yep. So moving on, day camp is going to happen this summer. We've had, we're not quite to the minimum number we had wanted to get to, but we have had strong interest, and we've had many people express additional interest as information regarding the pool became available, which we'll touch on that in a moment. With Tom's help, we've also been able to receive a stipend grant from the state Restart program. We'll receive $5,284 to go towards our day camp program, so that is a huge blessing. That will allow us a little bit of wiggle room as far as our numbers go, and provide some supplies and staffing that is much needed. So that was a huge blessing. I appreciate the help on that, Tom. That being said, camp it's not going to be an easy task. Campers will be, every day they'll come, they'll go through a health screening. There'll be lots of hand washing, there'll be lots of equipment washing, there'll be lots of disinfecting, but we will be developing policies and procedures that make this possible. The CDC's kind of outlined, what is required, and we're going to make that happen. So,
Seth, how are you on PPE and things like that for that?
You must be able to see my notes. I have a big circle on PPE. Because we've been so, I don't want to say behind, but we haven't been able to make any decisions until now. I wasn't going to buy a bunch of stuff and have a bunch of stuff in stock that I couldn't use. So we are behind when it comes to PPE purchases, and that is something that we will be doing, right away. If anybody has any, can point me in the right direction, I welcome that advice. I do have some masks that will be arriving for staff, but more will be needed. So we will work hard on that in coming days.
Give me a call tomorrow, Seth, and I'll talk. I got some suggestions maybe.
Thanks, Dave. I will certainly do that.
One thing
Go ahead, Linda.
One thing I wanted to say, Seth, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And from someone that has to wear one of those all the time when I go out, those blue ones don't last very long.
Yeah.
They get really damp and limp, and they aren't doing much of anything. And the N95s, which we have for Eddie because he has COPD, those are difficult to wear. They're hot. They are very uncomfortable. They're hard to breathe through. So I don't know what you guys will be using, but I'm glad you're going to be using something.
Yeah, I think we'll use a variety. It will be required for all staff, to wear masks. I have some cloth, single-use ones that, we'll be picking those up shortly. And then I would venture to guess that, given staff's creativity, they will probably have some of their own, though. We will certainly have those available. That's our responsibility. But I'm sure we'll probably have some stylish masks being made by staff and utilized so that they're as comfortable as they can be. But I do recognize the paper ones being challenging, and you know, we will work through it the best that we can.
Do you know, like, what kind of numbers you have for staff?
Yeah, we will have, depending on the final numbers for day camp, we will have either 3 or 4 staff members. Maintenance, we will have 2 at reduced hours. We will have 6 or 7 lifeguards, and generally 2 to 3 front desk staff available. You know, obviously in front desk, only one person will be on at a time, but
Right. You rotate.
yeah, they'll have a schedule.
Okay. Well, I've been diligently sewing for the rec department in Brattleboro. You may, I don't know if you heard that, but
Very nice.
I could try to fix you up with cloth masks.
We would love that, Gene. If that's something
that-
you can do, that would be
That
great.
number's not too outrageous. I'm doing like 50 for Brattleboro right now, and I've already done 30. So
Wow, that's good for you. Yeah, no, if it is something that you had time to do, we would certainly love that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
well,
if
I gotta-
anybody out in BCTV land is listening, I'm sure that our rec department would appreciate any further help, and maybe Gene's sewing machine would appreciate a break as well. So
Yours
Yeah,
is real doable.
we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
anything else, Seth?
Yeah, the big news is that we have a plan in place to open the pool. It's going to be met with some challenges, and it's not going to be easy, but it's something that we're prepared to do. You know, what we'll be looking at this summer, at least today, this is the plan. As our ever changing world evolves, we may have to, you know, adapt our plan here. But as of today, the pool is scheduled to open June 19th, as it would have normally. We'll be open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday this summer. In order to meet kind of, you know, financial responsibilities, the 7th day is just not going to be able to happen as of now. The day camp program will use the pool in the morning from 11 to 12:30. We will be open to the public from 1 to 3, and again from 3:30 to 5:30. It will be only 20 patrons at a time will we be able to take, at least under the current standard regulations. And Vernon residents only, they'll be required to start. You know, they can call it starting at 10 o'clock to the rec number to essentially have a reservation for one of those time slots for that day. They won't be able to sign up for both. They can only sign up for one. That way as many people can get an opportunity as possible to use the pool. You know, there will be a great deal of cleaning. All staff, it's kind of an all hands on deck kind of thing. You know, I'll be meeting with the staff in coming days, and there really won't be any, that's not my job, or that's not my job description this year. It's going to be, this is what we have to do, and we're all going to do it together kind of thing. We will unfortunately not be able to hold swimming lessons. It's just not in the cards this year. But you know, we're happy to be able to offer the pool, and there will be a press release of sorts coming from us tomorrow. So good news in that front.
Seth, you said 20 patrons. I'm sure that we're going to get some questions. Does that mean 20 children in the pool and parents are a different number? Is the kiddie pool separate? Is the deep end separate? I'm sure that we're going to get all of those questions. So let's just get it done now.
Yes, you will. And that is part of the press release. That means 20 people swimming or not. It could be 6 weeks old or 106 weeks old. They count towards that number of 20. You know, it doesn't make a difference whether they're in the pool or not. So, you know, grandparents could be bringing kids and they're not swimming. They still count towards our 20. So everybody that enters will have to pay the $1 fee. We will not be selling passes this year. We can't do that. We'll be making $20 a day per window that we're open. So that's where we're at on that.
And what about when the kids decide to go and play basketball? They've left the pool area. That's during their reservation time, so that number would still remain at the same, right? That wouldn't open up a spot for somebody else.
Right, and unless they leave the grounds for the day, I guess these are contingencies that we'll have to discuss and see how it plays out. The plan right now is you'll call, you'll have, after 10 o'clock, you'll have, your name, your address, your phone number, the number of, and we'll need that for every person that comes in, for contact tracing, and you'll come in, you'll have your temperature checked, you'll answer a couple questions. We will not have tables and chairs available on the pool deck this summer. We won't be renting any equipment. You're welcome to bring your own chair. You're welcome to bring your own equipment, but it's not something that the department will provide as we customarily have. It's not ideal, but it gets us started, and we're hopeful that as the summer progresses, that maybe some restrictions change a bit, and we can adjust. But we can't do that if we don't open now.
Need to vote on that?
I think we should.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move that we approve and sign the contract for law enforcement services with the correction of village to town.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Root. He beat you, Gene. And it's his first one, so we got to give it to him. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Mark, we'll get that taken care of. I appreciate your comments. I should have, as soon as I read that, I knew exactly how that was going to sound. I have a large amount of law enforcement in my family, and I can assure you that firefighters, the military, and police have always, my children have grown up seeing them as real superheroes. So I don't envy you. I don't envy the position that any of you are in. And I certainly respect the fact that more and more officers nationwide are standing in solidarity. So thank you for what you've done.
You're welcome. Would you like me to stick around to talk about the passing on Pond Road?
You can. I did get VLCT's response on that, and because it is a town highway, that would just be a town ordinance, is my understanding. Do you understand it any differently than that?
Nope, I understand it to fall. So this would fall under the statute I think I sent you, Title 23, Section 1008, permits the town to enact an ordinance. Our enforcement of it would occur under the state statute that enables the use of an ordinance. The benefit there is that it takes full advantage of the Judicial Bureau. It will allow essentially the process that happens for all state violations to happen on a town ordinance. So you don't have to set up any quasi-judicial proceedings or anything like that, which to all of you means it's just easier. To us, it's even easier. So that would be the ideal way to do it. It's the same as adopting municipal speed ordinance on a state highway, establishing stop signs, passing zones, one-way roads. It all falls into the same area. There's one thing I do want to note in terms of passing. If there was an ordinance that restricted passing in a certain section, that would mean all passing, including a farm tractor going, say, 10 miles an hour. So, for example, if we're talking about the segment that is near or in between the north end of 142, the overpass, and what was Annette Royden's farm, in that section, a farm tractor transiting between a field would not be allowed to be passed. There's another section of law, which is the speeding violation. It's Title 23, Section 1007. That, regardless of the effects on passing, that is still standing. So if you're going more than 35 miles an hour on Pond Road, then you're speeding, whether you're passing or not. There's no permission to exceed the speed limit, even if it's to get around a vehicle safely, because we don't acknowledge that as being a safe behavior. So I did want to at least mention that that could be an unanticipated effect. I know I've spoken with people over the years in Vernon about what speed limits are appropriate on Pond Road. Personally, I believe 35 miles an hour is an appropriate maximum. for that section. South of the wreck, there's been people who felt that 40 or 50 would be more appropriate. I don't agree with 50. Beyond 50, I think that would be something that would be worthy of a traffic study if we wanted to consider anything in terms of speed adjustments. But those are just a couple general statements I wanted to mention. And if there are, I'll be happy to stick around for the conversation on that if you'd like me to.
Seth, do you have an extra 5 to 10 minutes if we jump into this discussion so that we can pick from the sheriff's knowledge?
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Does anybody on the board object with us continuing to bounce around and discuss the addition that we added concerning the passing issue on Newton Road?
Pond Road.
Pond Road, I'm sorry. Yes. Yep. Let's just make it on all of them.
Go for it.
All right.
Yes.
So we've discussed it a little bit. I'm sure that there's a few people that are joining us that have no idea what's going on. So I'm gonna just read an email that we received as the select board real quickly here. So due to the fact that there is no law in Vermont that makes it illegal to pass on a double yellow line, I propose we make Pond Road from 142 to Scott Road a no passing zone. In talking to this person, that would be the north end of the north end of Pond Road to Scott Road. This is the main highway for people to walk and bike to the pool. The reason most people moved here. This will also allow people to walk to the Lily Pond in this zone. More people are using the Lily Pond as a result of Norma Manning's environmental push. We all frequent this road daily. The horse farm now is a big distraction as well. People passing me when I'm doing the speed limit makes no sense. Maybe they need a lesson in time management. If you're 5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late. Nothing is that pressing. You have to pass someone at 50 or 60 miles an hour on Pond Road. You can call the sheriff's department, but it's not illegal to pass. So really there is little that they can do. Putting the signs should make it so those of us who actually do the speed limit might slow the speeders down by just doing the speed limit. Too many children and adults walk on this road. It seems to be a drag strip. So that is the email that we received from a resident that lives on Pond Road. And I'm curious what people's thoughts on that are. Certainly I was not aware of the tractor issue. That just always seemed like an unwritten thing in Vermont that if you had room, you could kind of go around them. We did reach out to VLCT and their response was that this is a town issue because this is a town road. So we do not need to involve the state on this one. And they did send over, and I believe I forwarded it, but they did send over what the ordinance should read with the proper legal terminology on there. So, Jean, your thoughts?
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time until Mark spoke, because
Mark.
living right there, I have frequently been passed, even way before I get to my driveway. So that is quite, and I can hear the traffic is very fast. But the tractor thing is kind of, it's not for that far to follow a tractor. Usually they're turning onto West Road or something, but you always thought, oh, they pull over and they wave you to go, and you thought that's okay, we'll go by them. But
Mark, does that change if the tractor was to pull over and stop and wave you by? If they are not moving, does that change things?
So if they pulled over, and I mean, some of this is going to be discretionary, to be quite frank. When we're talking about law, we're talking black and white, and when we're talking about the world, it's muddy gray at best. So yeah, there is permissives within Title 23 that allow people to pass around an obstacle. I also do want to clarify, after hearing the email, there is a law about limiting passing on a double yellow line. And while Vermont is permissive in the fact that you can pass on a double yellow line, it's Title 23, Section 1035. And what it requires is I don't want to bore you reading the entire thing. It's kind of a long statute, but basically you can't pass when approaching railroad crossing, intersection, on corners, and anywhere where you within 200 feet of any approaching vehicle or vulnerable user. A vulnerable user would be someone like a person in a wheelchair, a blind person. I'm not sure if we could extend it further. I haven't ever sought the definition to determine if a pedestrian is considered a vulnerable user versus a 5-year-old riding a bicycle is a vulnerable user. And anywhere where the view is obstructed upon approaching a bridge, viaduct, or tunnel, which really doesn't apply for the sections that's been described. So yes, a person could pass a tractor if it pulled over, but if it doesn't pull over, they're stuck. But again, I want to reaffirm that a car going 60 miles an hour to pass is already against the law. Some of this is enforceable. It's just a different section of law. So I guess the question would be, if there might be something else that we can do right now that might be able to help with the problem. I'm also aware when we reduced hours from, I think it was noticeable after 20 hours a day. When we reduced from that down to 8 hours a day, we did receive a large increase in complaints about speeding, especially on Pond Road. And we also saw a large increase in what we'll refer to as aggressive driving. Those are high speed, passing, chance taking. I could break those down by statutes, but really that's what we're talking about. So the dangerous driving that we then relate to motor vehicle crashes and fatalities. So we did see that. I think it kind of makes sense as people became aware that there's not policing at certain times on a consistent basis, that their risk factor increased. So,
Mark, have you noticed an increase in that kind of countywide since this COVID stuff started?
yeah.
Okay.
So I've had several people approach me asking why we don't stop cars, which my response to them is we didn't stop stopping cars. But then as we looked into it, it turned out that some information was shared with law enforcement across the state, including in my department, which was misinterpreted by law enforcement officers as saying we're not stopping cars. We're not stopping cars for expired registrations because the DMV had extended them administratively. We weren't stopping cars for inspection stickers because DMV extended them administratively. So basically, there's a few things, what I'll refer to as administrative violations, that we just were not going to hold people accountable for because they had no resolution to what they were going to accomplish. And law enforcement across the state took it as we're not doing motor vehicle enforcement right now. So we corrected that guidance. We did explain to deputies, yes, we should be stopping cars for moving violations and driving. And that will take time for us to regain control. Generally, our rule of thumb is it takes about 3 to 6 months to gain control of any driving behavior in a location, and it only takes about 1 month to lose it. So we'll have a little work ahead of us. We do recognize that. We apologize for the oversight on that, but we're working to correct it.
Michael, your thoughts?
I'd like to hear what the sheriff thinks about the idea, whether he thinks it's a good idea or not for the town.
I think 100% opinion, I could see value to it. As a former resident of the town, I could see value to it. I could see it also being frustrating for many town members. I think that people, generally speaking, if they're going to be going 60 miles an hour and passing cars, they're going to pass whether there is or is not a passing ordinance. The effect of enforcement, so any problem, generally when we talk about highway safety, we talk about it with 3 perspectives. Perspective 1 is enforcement, perspective 2 is education, and then perspective 3 is engineering. So those 3 make a triangle that's essentially solve traffic safety problems. since I've already acknowledged that we have not really been doing the enforcement piece, I personally would like to say, let us try that and see if we can get control of the issues that are going on. I'm not sure, given we're there for 1/3 of the work week, I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to have the effect of it, but I think that's something we should offer to try first. The second part is, and other towns have looked at it, either inserting stop signs. For example, you could place a stop sign on Pond Road at the intersection of Huckle Hill, which would stop traffic coming up to the wreck. That would also have an effect of slowing traffic down instead of speeding up as they're going by the pool, which has been an issue for a long time. For those of you familiar with Cedar Street in Brattleboro, that used to be a racetrack probably 20 years ago, and they put stop signs in at every intersection, and now they have very few complaints about speeding in that area. I think that a stop sign might be more effective for the rec area. Would one make sense to put somewhere in the area of Central Park? Maybe. But I think I would recommend those before I would recommend the no passing, simply because if they're passing, we're already dealing with a violation for speeding.
What about like our school zone where we have the flashing yellow sign that during certain times the speed limit is different? Could we do that from, say, what is that, Old Farm Road down by Eugene up to either Silver Lane or Newton Road, so that entire stretch where we see the majority of the town's kids would be an enforceable lower speed limit?
You can establish reduced speed limits. Your limit would be 25 miles per hour. The cost is something the town would have to bear, the cost of running the lights, tying it to electricity. So those are something to consider. I'm not sure what one of those lights, the equipment itself, would cost. So those would be things to look into, but certainly a possible option.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep. Sorry,
Sheriff,
I'm trying to plug my computer in, but go ahead, I'm listening.
Sheriff, would there be a requirement on that type of a signal that the chairman is talking about? Would you have to do a traffic study before you installed something like that?
So I have never been asked that question. If you'll bear with me to read on that for just a minute.
Yeah, it was just something that, if you're going to put signalization in, do you need to have a study on it?
My understanding, so a couple things. One is there's two types of studies that we talk about when we're talking about playing with the road. The first is a traffic study, which is something my office does. Basically, we do a traffic count. We provide you a report based on the number of vehicles that went through and the speeds they go through. And then you can do whatever you want with that. You don't have to agree with my report. You don't have to disagree with my report. It's just we have to do the step before the board effectuates a change. The second is an engineering study, and that's where you would need to bring in a civil engineer to do certain things. I'm not sure if anybody at the highway department has the credentials to be capable of doing that kind of study. That's a study that we're not involved with. So whether it is required for installing the signal lights, I do not believe so, but I've never been involved with that. And as for adjusting the speed limit, I believe you are required to do it for anything. Let's see, legislative body of a city must establish on the basis of an engineering and traffic investigation speed limit on all or any part of state highway. Let's see, that's state highways.
It was my understanding from the information we received that stop signs, the speed limits, the passing, there was a list of things that, providing it was a town road, were permitted as long as we did the correct ordinance.
So the limitations without, where you can set a speed limit without a study is going to be between 35 and 50 miles per hour. So if you wanted to go below 35 miles per hour, you would need to do the traffic study.
Sandy, your thoughts on this?
Well, I was wondering about the cost or the feasibility of a speed camera put up.
So speed cameras aren't used in Vermont at the time. I'm not sure if they are even permitted under Vermont law. The problem with speed cameras, it's actually based on the science of how a radar device works. Radar is a tool, without completely going radar nerd on you right now. I must admit, I'm a master instructor for NHTSA's radar and LiDAR programs. I'm actually going to teach it tomorrow, so I'm starting to get my brain wrapped around that. Basically, the operator of the radar has to recognize that there's not certain things that can happen to ensure that it's a valid read. There's ways that you can simulate a higher speed for a vehicle that's not accurate. It's not hard to recognize those circumstances. Officers across the state are trained very well to recognize them. So a speed camera, I think, would be problematic for a variety of reasons. Another possible recommendation would be looking at the fixed speed signs. They're rather affordable these days. We're looking at actually buying 2 more in addition to our radar carts, which, by the way, Seth will get a radar cart out when you open the pool, or somewhere thereabouts. I'm not sure where they're floating right now, but a lot of towns are getting semi-permanent mounts for those. And so you can put them in areas where the majority of people, we'll say you're 90%, they're not paying attention. They're on their way home from work. They're in la la land. And when they see the sign flashing at them, they say, oh, whoops, I know I could get a ticket for that. The 10% they're going to be passing, they're going to be going 60 miles an hour. They're going to do those things. And those are the ones that we're looking for to stop and have a conversation with, accomplish the education portion of the triangle, as well as potentially the enforcement, especially for the more egregious violations.
Mark, where would we begin to look at signs like that to be?
I can actually forward information, and if you'd like, under our contract, there's a piece about me being able to purchase equipment for, basically equipment purchased by the town is owned by the town, equipment purchased by me is owned by me. Long story short, if the town gave me money, we have vendors that we could have government contracts with and whatnot that we could secure a sign for the town. It'd essentially be a pass-through for you. We'd we'd find the quotes, buy the equipment, either work with the highway department on installing them or install them ourselves. It's pretty simple to do. And ultimately, it would be your property. We would just be essentially doing the work of the purchase, and then you'd reimburse us for the cost. So that might be an easier way, since we already have the contacts. I'm also perfectly happy to forward along a few vendors that provide different systems. But we're flexible that way.
Seth, I'm curious. Obviously, you're up there all the time, worrying about the kids crossing the road, being out by the road. What do you need? What's going to make things better, safer, more comfortable? What are things that you've seen? I drive up Pond Road. It's been a long time since I've hung out at the pool. So tell us what you're seeing up there.
It's pretty common to see poor driving in that area while the pool's open. Certainly a concern that is sent our way quite often by residents. And we, in kind, we'll just call it the sheriff's department and let them know if it's something that we see. So I guess I would defer to Mark and his experience as to what the best options may be. But yes, I would agree that it is certainly something that is problematic and that we see.
So Mark, those signs that you're speaking of are the ones that flash at you and say, "Hey, idiot, you're going too fast." Those ones. Okay.
And so I'm not suggesting the town purchase the trailer style, which is what we use, but rather this is, I'm trying to think of
They're popping up all over the place.
They
You're
are.
seeing them in a lot of different zones. Yep.
They're about the size of a large laptop, a little thicker than a laptop, but about the size of a large laptop. They're very portable. They have rechargeable batteries, so you buy extra batteries for them, and basically as they die, you just replace it. Then you're not worrying about trying to tie into the electrical grid or trying to set up solar power or all the other things that that things like our carts do have. So the signs I do recommend. They're roughly, I want to say I got a quote not too long ago about $1,500 for a sign. That's not including extra batteries. That's including, I think, a single mount. So somewhere around that area for the cost of one. Like I said, we're looking to purchase two, which will be something that the town could take advantage of using, but we would also be rotating it through our other towns as well. Honestly, if you want to stop cars or slow cars down by the wreck, my most sincere recommendation, even though it's probably the least popular, is the stop sign at the end of Huckle Hill. They just work. I know people don't like coming to a stop when they're almost home, they're in the last mile, but at the end of the day, our goal isn't to satisfy their happiness of getting into their driveway 2 seconds quicker, but rather it's to make sure that the children aren't getting hurt.
So that would be a three-way stop?
I would recommend a three-way stop, yes.
Mark, would it work the same if we were to put a stop sign on the north end of the pool parking area, and then we had one on the south end down by Huckle Hill? I mean, that would be stopping them in both directions, but I don't know if that would make sense or not.
So essentially, let me think. I think that having them all at the same intersection would be better. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with vehicles accelerating through the same stretch that you're trying to slow down. So a potential, another potential thought, rather than put a three-way stop at the bottom of Huckle Hill, put it right at the rec department where you already have the flashing signal, and change the signal lights from yellow to red.
What does that do to the stop sign at the bottom of Huckle Hill? They're going to stop, get on Pond Road and stop again?
No, so I wish I had a whiteboard. Basically, if you're traveling south on Pond Road from the railroad, you would come to a stop at Huckle Hill, then you could turn right or continue going straight. If you were coming north from Scott Road, you would come to a stop just before entering the Huckle Hill intersection, and turn left or go straight. And if you're coming off Huckle Hill, then turn left or turn right. You're already stopped.
I thought it was the same place the light was. Thank you.
So actually, if we were talking about the intersection at the light for a stop position, then a person coming off Huckle Hill would turn left off Huckle Hill, and then they'd have to come to a stop and then start again. So that would be an effect that might be adverse. It might be by design.
Very frustrating.
I can see the frustration for sure. I think that having that stop at the pool intersection makes the most sense. Kids would be exiting the parking lot on their bicycles, and it's just another thing to have to look out for. My thoughts on that are the same with the inability to pass a tractor if we were to do the no passing thing. I don't really care who it inconveniences. I'm more concerned that when my children ride to the rec center, that they arrive safely and they're allowed to come home. So Linda, I see your hand up. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I see children from Newton Road going to the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a stop sign at Huckle Hill, it's going to do absolutely nothing for the kids going from Newton Road to the pool.
So
and the same thing coming up when I come up Pond Road from 142. I'm not a slow driver, as you might know. And, anyway,
that's why we need this rule.
No, I don't speed there. I won't tell you where, but I don't speed there. And because I know there's children there. And if you're coming up from there, coming from 142 up Pond Road, there's kids, I would say, right by where Jean's driveway is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's always kids coming there.
Yeah.
So if you wait and have the three-way stop at the actual pool area, it's too late on both ends.
So
I think the thought process is to kind of break it up so that they can't do one end of Pond Road to the other at 75. There's a break in there somewhere.
Somewhere,
and-
okay,
And I agree with you that our children are coming from Newton Road. They're coming from the north end of Pond Road as well. And I think that the only solution there would be that, I mean, if you wanted to, you could put the three-way at Newton Road, and you could do one down by Central Park. But I think that could be getting a little excessive. But again, with Mark's description of Cedar Street, I mean,
It does work on Cedar Street. People do come to a stop and then they go, and they come to a stop and then they go. It does work there.
I think that at some point we have to look at these and understand that we are, excuse my language, we're going to piss off half of the town no matter what decision we make with this.
Right.
But I think that this is one of those situations where we need to be proactive and not wait for something to happen before we decide to make changes to protect the children that we clearly want to be going to the rec department to utilize the great programs that we have.
So I also just want to mention, yes, the logic is the more stop signs you have, the more you're going to control speed in that regard. Assuming this is going to be some very fuzzy math, but assuming you have a regular sized car, it's traveling 50 miles an hour on Pond Road, which there are times that we see that as a norm. And they are doing what we call emergency braking, i.e. stomp the brakes, ABS would kick in. They're doing everything they can to come to a stop. It would take the vehicle, your average vehicle, roughly 300 feet. The distance, according to Google Maps, from Huckle Hill Road to Ferret Drive, which is roughly the recreation center, is roughly 528 feet. So under non-emergency circumstances, a vehicle needing to come to a stop at Huckle Hill is going to need to begin braking pretty much a little bit before Ferret Drive, which is what's going to cause them to reduce the speed at that point if they're the bad actor going 50 miles an hour on Pond Road. Ideally, I stop them before they get to the recreation center, but as you know, we can't be at the recreation center all the time. So that would be the benefit of putting it right at the Huckle Hill intersection, is you're actually going to start seeing people slowing down beforehand. Coming from the other side, the Newton Road side, I agree that it's certainly it's not going to stop the car or reduce their speed in that area. And so these are questions of, is a stop sign the appropriate tool to stick along the entire road? I would encourage either talking with someone who does traffic studies. I think VLCT does have a person who actually does this type of work, who's got a background in civil engineering and might actually be able to do the engineering study. Because there are people who actually look at this traffic counts, figure out how often, how frequent, what's appropriate based on flow. Another question is, are sidewalks actually something that the town might want to consider to get kids off the road? There is a lot of foot traffic that does follow Pond Road. And even if it's a sidewalk that extended from, I'm not sure necessarily where, but I'm thinking the Newton Road or Silver Lane area that would get kids up to the pool, that might be a valuable investment over the years. Certainly it's not a one-year project. That's something to look at long-term, but maybe the Planning Commission could consider that as well.
They did have a bicycle lane there.
No, that was never considered a bicycle lane. It was supposed to be a breakdown
Well, when
lane.
they put it in, they called it a bicycle lane when they first put it in.
Yeah,
Like thrown on the ground on it.
and I think that when this has been brought up before, one of the issues is if you start putting a sidewalk with a curb. I think the road has to be a
Wider.
certain size, and it would have to be wider than it is now, because this has been discussed in the past. But David has all of that information, so it's not a real easy thing to do.
Yeah, sidewalks do complicate it, no doubt, and David would definitely be the right person to talk to about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, it's a little tough, especially with the drainage ditches and everything. It's a little tough there, so I'm not sure how feasible it is. But foot traffic is usually good on sidewalk as a general rule of thumb. Bicycle traffic, not as good on it, but younger children who can get off their bike when they're coming across people walking, that's, we would prefer them to be protected by the curb than the white line that's called the bike lane. So.
Agreed.
Hey, Tom, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Speaking as a driver, I feel that the kind of sign that flashes when you're exceeding the speed limit and in other cases just reflects your actual speed is very effective in making you conscious of how fast you're going. And it also serves as a reminder beyond the original permanent painted signs as to what the posted speed limit is on that road. And so I'd like to weigh in favor of considering that approach as opposed to or in addition to the stop signs.
I appreciate that. And as you're talking about that, and we're talking about the north end of Pond Road and down towards Newton Road and Silver Lane, what if we considered putting those flashing signs that the sheriff has suggested down somewhere between Newton Road and Silver Lane, and one somewhere down by the horse farm down towards Jean? And then if we made that intersection at the rec center a three-way stop, I think that we've got the majority of that road covered. We have them notified prior to getting to the wreck that you're driving too fast. And that covers that whole span that that Linda brought up, where the kids are walking far beyond the reaches of the wreck. So we're flashing them, and then they get there, and then they have to stop and start again. So I don't know if that would be a solution. In my mind, it seems like we're covering a lot more of Pond Road that way.
Yep.
Than we would be by just having a stop intersection or just having those signs. At this point, I think that we have an awful lot to think about with that. What is the select board's thoughts and feelings on where we should be looking, and possibly myself and Tom Carino reaching out to VLCT or whoever we may need to further this discussion? But in order to do that, I need some direction. Sandy?
Yeah, I think you should reach out to VLCT. I like the flashing light very much, this flashing sign, especially for Linda.
Jean, your thoughts?
I also like the idea of the flashing sign, and perhaps getting a study or evaluation of really what they think would work in this situation. So,
Michael?
I like the ideas. I think we should get with the road commissioner as well and definitely get some quotes from Sheriff Anderson, because I've looked online and they're twice the price online than his idea he thought he paid for them. So going through them would save us a lot of money if we do go that route.
Not everything's cheaper on Amazon, Michael.
It's just on Google.
Free
Going through my
shipping.
own construction links from when I worked in construction. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for the sheriff on that? So we can let him out of here. Mark, if you could send us the information on that, the flashing signs, and how that would work if we did that through you.
Yep.
It sounds like, based off from your rough numbers, that we'd be somewhere in the ballpark of 3,500-ish with the signs and the extra batteries and nonsense.
As long as nobody's price has gone up since coronavirus has hit.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll get a quote. I'm actually looking at one of the vendors that we talked to. So he doesn't have the numbers in this email, but I'm sure I have it somewhere in my email.
Okay.
I'll be happy to do that and follow up with you. If the consideration is to lean towards purchasing the feedback signs, I would encourage delaying the stop sign or the three-way stop to see what effect the signboards do have. And if you don't see the impact you want, then consider either stop light or stop sign at the intersection, either in front of the rec or in front of Huckle Hill. I think that will be a very effective solution, but also measures the majority of drivers who are responsible and do want to go the speed limit and will slow down, especially when kids are present.
Mr. Guarino, could I ask you to reach out to VLCT and find out if they have an engineer that could come and assist us with a traffic study on Pond Road, please?
Absolutely. I'm wondering also, Mr. Chairman, does Wyndham Regional have transportation planners?
I do not have an answer for you on that one.
I believe they do.
You believe they do, Sheriff?
I believe so, because Wyndham Regional also does the traffic counters, the tubes that they'll run across the road. I believe someone's in charge of that.
I'll check with both. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions for the sheriff? Mark, thank you for joining us. Thanks for sticking around and helping us through this issue as well. I appreciate it. Stay safe out there, sir.
My pleasure. Have a good day, and thank you for your time.
Thanks,
And
Sheriff.
Seth, you're up.
Thanks.
All right, so let's keep bouncing around. Now let's talk about the town forest. And I'm just going to say at this point, we can remove our discussion about the lily pond. We have no clear answer at this time whose property that is, who's responsible for it, any of that. So I know that Carol has been working on it diligently. Tom has been involved in it. Tim has been involved in it. I have been involved in it. Norma Manning has been involved in it. One way or the other, we're going to get to the bottom of this to figure that parcel out. Having said that, we did receive a lengthy email. I'm not going to read this whole one, but it's a very well thought out email. It has to do with potentially putting they're asking for 6 to 8 campsites in the Vernon Town Forest, some of which would be set up specifically for tents. Some of them would potentially have lean-tos that are built in. They would all have a fire pit that would be installed. The thought process behind this is that some local businesses, 2 of which have already offered funding for it, would essentially get a plaque on the campsite that says that it's sponsored by them. They would pitch in something. They would cover the costs of setting that campsite up, the installation of a lean-to or the tent area, and in turn, again, they would have a plaque there that has their business name on it. The resident that brought this forward, again, very well thought out. He has reached out to multiple citizens, the Cub Scout, Boy Scouts, the fire department, a couple of different building supply companies around us, as well as Big Guys Property Maintenance, who they have offered to fund part of this. And he even went as far to acknowledge that we would obviously have some potential vandalism, some people that would take advantage of it, some people that just wouldn't respect it. And like everything, would hurt it for some of the other ones that do want to use it. But at the same time, we have a beautiful town forest that Seth takes care of, and it would be great to see that utilized in a different way that invited people through our town and offered that service. So Seth, I know that you and I spoke earlier. You respectfully said that we should do a walkthrough of the area potentially at some point, and that we would be remiss if we did not include Mr. Miller on this discussion. So on that, I have emailed the proposal to Mr. Miller, asked him for his feedback, and we will start that conversation as well. But since we have Seth here, I would like to get his feedback.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think I would just, I'd reiterate a couple of things you said. I mean, I think that the proposal, I can appreciate the effort that went into that. It wasn't something that was just thrown together. There's a lot of time involved in that, and I can appreciate that. Anytime we do anything in the town forest, I feel it's appropriate to touch base with the Miller family. It has their name on it, and it's meant a lot to them over the years. So changing anything up there, just touching base with them is certainly something we need to do. So it sounds like you've done that. That's, we'll go from there on that. And whether or not it's something where if we do move forward with this, maybe not 6 or 8, maybe it's 3 or 4 sites and see how it plays out. I can certainly see some value in it for sure. And I think it could be a good thing if we can find a good way to do it. I was one of the ones that did voice concerns regarding vandalism with the proposal when the individual did touch base with me on it. It does cost the town hundreds of dollars on an annual basis up there. And if we're going to do this, I kind of, like you said, there's a risk to vandalism all the time, anywhere, and you can't eliminate it completely. For some reason, that area seems to invite it for some reason. I don't know if it's because it's so secluded. I'd have to guess that's probably the case. So we'd have to have a plan that, we feel we could work through to try to reduce the risk of that. But the nuts and bolts of it, the plan looks good to me. I think that if, I think a walkthrough and a couple other discussions and I see merit in continuing to look at it.
Perfect. And as far as the vandalism, again, this being a well thought out plan, there was a suggestion to have trash bins, recycling bins at the base of the hill, and things along those lines. So I would like to think that if there was 4 sites, maybe one of them gets trashed and the other 3 people are considerate enough to help us pick that up on their way out. And I think that we see that a lot on hiking trails. Certainly, I know when I take my kids fishing, I walk out of the edge of the stream with a heck of a lot more stuff than we brought in. So I would like to think others do that. I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess my concern isn't necessarily just at the campsite. It's opening more access to the area. Right now, if you decide you want to vandalize something, you got to walk all the way up the hill to do it. When the gates open, a plan to include a gate, further up. So well thought out. Definitely worth looking further into.
Okay. Jean, your thoughts?
I would have to agree that maybe 6 or 8 sites is a little ambitious at first. If it happened, I'd like to see less and see how that works out, because the vandalism happens. It happens on my property only because, we find it because we're out there. We never even realized what was going on. So they find a way, and hate to encourage more of that activity, but I would go with maybe half as many sites just to see how it really worked out.
Well, that's perfect, because there's only funding secured for 2. So
there you go. There you go.
Michael, your thoughts?
I think it'd be great to have something to get people to come to Vernon. It's awesome that the citizens did all this work. I like the idea.
Sandy?
My question is, who would man it? Who would police it? And who would accept the money for it?
I would venture to guess that the system would include the rec department, as we are responsible for managing the town forest. The monies itself would go back into the town forest fund. That money wouldn't come to the rec department as income. The proposal would utilize using the funds that we receive for the sites. I believe the proposal has an $8 or a $15 charge, depending on which site, and that money could be used for annual cleanup or maintenance. Is how the proposal was written out.
So I look up on their website and I see it's a Black Gum Swamp, and I want to bring my kids there, and I live in Michigan. Who will I contact?
You would contact me. Is my understanding. It's early in the process, but I would venture to guess that is the process that would probably take place. It's not outlined in the proposal. I think that we're early in the discussions, but I would venture to guess that that's probably what would take place.
Right. It's a fragile area up there. You want it protected.
It is, and they're class 2 wetlands right now, so there's a 50-foot buffer around the 7 wetlands. So the town would be responsible for any damages that took place inside that buffer. So, but at the same time, we're encouraging hiking and walking, and we're encouraging people to go up there now. So, we need to continue to have the discussion and think about what all it would entail.
Cool. Thanks.
So at this point, because this was an addition and received relatively late in the process and it was not properly warned, I think that this was a great discussion to have. We will await Art Miller's response on this. And then we will put this back on the agenda, hopefully at the last meeting of this month, so that we can continue to have this conversation, hopefully after we've gathered some more information. Any questions on what we've discussed about this so far this evening?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Mark Snow.
Yes.
I would like to be involved with the conversations about the camping sites in the town forest from
I
the
would
health
love for you to be
standpoint.
involved.
Okay. I do have some questions and comments and concerns. So I would like to meet with the individuals coordinating this to bring those to their attention.
Mark, I'm going to right now forward the email over to you so that you can have that proposal and reach out with your questions on that. Is that all right with you?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
What was that, Mark?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, where are we on this agenda anyway? Let's go to approval of minutes.
Oh, okay.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, Seth, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
on May 19th minutes, we need to get a last name for Natalia and Greg.
Yes, and they are both different names as well. I thought that I had it here and I do not. Okay.
And then on page 2, under Seth Deyo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th line down. I don't think Seth is a the in front of Seth's name.
Okay.
But the Seth, oh, okay.
And on page 3, Martin's referred to, but I think for posterity's use, we should include his last name. And did you get to check into the terms for the fire warden? For some terms hadn't gone out yet.
I did not, Sandy. There was something that I had tried to figure out all week what that was. Where are you, Tom? We at our last meeting we discussed the fire warden, and Sandy had questioned that. I'm sorry, only 2 of them should be renewed, not 3.
Right.
Is that correct?
Let's see if I can pull my paper up.
I got him here.
Jesse
John Wielden,
Yep.
Jim, Jesse Jobin.
Okay, his term didn't end until 2021.
Okay.
So I wondered why we were appointing him again.
I will say what I didn't say on the road last time is that's because that's what the state sent to us. They only sent
Okay.
the state sent these 3 names, Jobin,
Nathan, Todd
Chapin,
Chapin.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Mr. Wielden.
Okay, that was just my question. That's all I have.
So I guess because I completely dropped the ball on that, what do we need to do about this? Because we've got to get that signed and off to them, don't we, Tom?
By the end of the month.
I think we could sign it, just put a letter in there
Yeah.
asking why.
Okay.
We can put a note to that.
All right, Tom, if you could do that and have that with the clerk, I will stop and sign that.
Well, it's asking for the majority of at least the majority of the board on the signatures.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I forgot. That was the one that Gene, yes, okay.
So a note on Jobin. All right, so that that'll be available for your, what's today, for the next warrants. I'll put them out with the next warrants. And you can sign them if you so choose when you review the warrants.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Does that
Sure.
work for the board?
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay. All right. Anything else on those minutes, Sandy?
That's all I had. Jean was-
Anybody else? Gene?
I think Jason O'Brien is also on the planning commission. Is that right? Is he on? Yeah. So I don't know where he should fall on this guest list, so.
Okay. Any other corrections? If not, I would accept a motion.
I move we accept the minutes as corrected.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Bills and warrants, please.
Okay, I lost him. There we go. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve payment of the following warrant. 24T, accounts payable, $28,431.06. 20S, payroll, $7,091.03. 21S, payroll, $7,853.71.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the bills and warrants, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Perfect. All right. Smoking on town property discussion. I mean, there's, the only ordinance we have is that you cannot smoke inside of a building. That is a town ordinance, that is a state law. My personal opinion is that there should be an ordinance that states no smoking in town vehicles, and that there really does not need to be any smoking on town property. Highway department, town garage, the rec center, the school, fire department, any of that, I don't see. So, discussion.
So it's not a law that to prohibit smoking on town property? That's not a law then? Is that what you're saying? It's not a
No,
state.
I'm saying that currently the law states that you can't do it inside of a building.
Inside the buildings? I
Yeah,
thought it
but
was,
but I did look at our town ordinances yesterday, and there is nothing, that is the only ordinance that we have in play, is the no smoking in a town building, but nothing about town-owned.
property.
But yeah, well, I was thinking the vehicles and then just the property in general. I mean, cigarettes, smoking of any, it generally leads to some type of littering or garbage, and I just don't think that it
Right.
needs to be right out in front of town buildings. So that is my own personal thought. And for anybody that would like to, I did smoke for a very long time in my life, so I'm just grabbing to make sure that I didn't miss the ordinance, but.
I could say
Sandy,
from,
your thoughts?
on, sorry,
No, go ahead, Michael.
on the Air Force bases, they made it this way where you can't smoke unless you're designated smoking area. but they can't control you in your own personal vehicle, so that caused more people to smoke in their cars and litter their cigarettes outside of their car. So if we're going to do something, I would set a set location for each building just for fire reasons. But other than that, you're not going to stop people, and you're going to have littering all over the parking lot instead.
Sandy?
I agree with Michael.
So if we did that, that would require us to,
We'd have to amend our policy, wouldn't we?
well, I'm curious if that would mean that we would have to supply those smoking poles, the ashtrays that
The
they
butt,
would.
the butt receptacles, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't we have them outside the town office?
that I'm not sure of.
Used to.
I don't think it's still there, Sandy. It may be, but I haven't.
It used to be
remember
one
it
by the
used to
police
be in
department
there.
door.
Yeah, it may have gone the way of the flower pots.
Yeah.
Linda, why didn't you speak up? I just found a more current ordinance that has your name on it.
Oh, Linda.
So this one was not in the ordinance book that I found at the town office yesterday, but this one says the town of Vernon, Vermont, in order to comply with provisions of 18 VSA 1421, has established this policy to protect workers by prohibiting smoking and use of smokeless tobacco products in the workplace, except for 30 feet away from town buildings and vehicles.
I think I did that when I was reviewing the town policy book. And at that time, that was what the Vermont statute was.
So, I mean, this says 30 feet or more.
Right.
So the statute says that, Linda?
It did at that time. I don't know what it does now, Sandy.
I mean, this is approved on 10/5 of '09. There is 4 signatures, and I apologize. The only one that I can make out is Linda's, and it looks like maybe Bob Miller's.
That's when I was first on the select board,
Okay.
because
So,
I was elected to the select board.
so it sounds like this is in play, which would turn into more of an enforcement issue as opposed to having to make changes to this.
And I can tell you, I am a former smoker, and my husband is, who now has COPD really bad. So the only reason I stopped smoking was because my workplace said I couldn't smoke. And I think anything we can do to help people not smoke is a public service. And when they get to be our age, they'll wish they didn't smoke.
So I'm wondering if perhaps maybe we should just reiterate this policy to the department heads, and Tom, if I could task you with sending a friendly reminder with this attached that this is the rule of the town and that it needs to be followed.
I certainly would, Mr. Chairman. I'd be more than happy to. I might suggest to the board, they might want to look at amending that policy only in as much as not allowing any smoking on recreation property where the kids are.
Right.
There is a state law on that. Hold
Yep.
on, I have it up.
Act 135?
School grounds and childcare, you're not allowed to smoke on their grounds. The school actually has a sign for that.
Right.
And
But I would-
workplaces, motor vehicles, public places, school grounds, and childcare settings. That's Act 135 and Act 108.
Right, but the playground, the rec center isn't a, well, it's a childcare setting in the summer, I guess. I just brought that up as a,
Like, makes sense, but I consider it a childcare facility. That's me.
yeah, during the time the childcare is going, that they have the rec programs going.
I mean,
Uh,
I
I'm sorry.
understand what you're both saying. I was just looking at this as far as your idea to amend, and I'm wondering if that 30-foot should just come out of there, and that it is no smoking on town property. Period. Done. Hospitals, everybody around here does it. You can't smoke anywhere anymore, and I don't think that it needs to be on town property. And to that, I certainly understand what Michael is saying, because when I was smoking, we found those loopholes to make sure that we could sneak one. And I'm certain that we're still going to have those, but with the ordinance in place and potentially being town employees or town volunteers, we would have that to fall back on for those purposes. Brana, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think eliminating the 30-foot is good, because 30 foot isn't much. I mean, you go, that means they can just drop their butts on the parking lot of the town, the town property, right? The other thing I would say, I have a question. Can you smoke in the town forest? I would say, I would hope not, but.
I don't know how you, that one sounds a little slippery to me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's dangerous, it's town property. But anyhow.
Sandy, your thoughts on this?
I'm with you. I think we should find out what the state law says and utilize it.
Michael?
I am a smoker, and I still say designated area.
Yeah, they
You
should
tell
have.
me I can't smoke, I'm still gonna smoke. You're not gonna stop me.
But if you had a place to go to smoke, you would probably use that rather than every place, right?
As I am a very good person, I would respect that.
Yeah.
Because you're respecting me and my choices.
Right. My sister's a smoker, and they have a special smoke shed they go to smoke.
So would that require us to purchase those butt cans, if you will, for each of those locations, so that it is the ones that I can't say eliminate, but reduce the risk of fire because of they're in those contained. Should we
When
look
making
at that?
do anything, you usually have to provide something.
Yeah, it's only right.
Okay.
And I try to find the ones we used to have.
So do we need to look at this policy again, Sandy, and revise that and then send that out after we have designated areas and given them the proper equipment to do so?
I think so. I think they should know before we do it, what we're planning.
Okay.
It should be looked at anyway.
That's right.
So let's put that on the next agenda, and that'll give us some time to Tom to research the state laws on that and make sure that that's still current. This is for
Yeah, I'll
2009.
call the Vermont Department of Health. They'll know straight up,
Okay.
as well as VLCT.
Okay. So let's put that on the next agenda. We will revisit it. Okay. Perfect. Condition of town properties, appearance and upkeep. Sent some pictures around to the board. We've got a lot of chipping paint. We have cracks in the cinder blocks of the highway department. We have a highway department that is still a shining display of the 1970s as we drive down Route 142. And I think that we've got to do something. At some point that becomes preventative maintenance, making sure that everything is painted and we're not rotting out the eaves and things like that. But also if we want our town to ever be taken seriously when our planning commission is seeking potential investors in our town, when we want other people to move to our town and bring their children to our school. I think that our town property has to kind of look the part, the same as we're replacing the stairs at the town offices for safety and for aesthetics. So that's why I brought this up. Again, I did send those pictures around, and I'm just curious the board's thoughts. Sandy?
I think we need to take care of our infrastructure.
Jean?
I've been fighting for this for years. And fallen on deaf ears, but I was thinking that our budget was built with a line item for an evaluation of this sort. I'm trying to find it. Do you remember that discussion?
Yeah.
And so that is actually under, we have that coming up under old business A, town facility inspection to continue that movement. But yes, you're absolutely right that we do have that, and that did pass at town meeting, and that's why the discussion is here this evening, so that hopefully we can get back on track with that. COVID stalled an awful lot of things. Linda, I apologize. Were you a part of any of that discussion when we talked about having that firm come in and look at all of our buildings the same as Guilford did?
Well, yes, our whole committee was, because when, I think it was Tom, weren't you the one that you found that out when you went to Guilford and brought that information back to the committee, and the committee brought it to the select board?
Yes, I spoke to the town administrator, if that's his title, in Guilford, and he told me about having gone through the process very recently where they hired a consultant, and they were very pleased with the result. He not only went through and made an assessment of all of the town-owned properties, but he also recommended priorities for which things needed to be tackled immediately and which things could wait. And it wasn't necessarily what the select board in the town had in their minds in terms of the priorities. So they were very grateful to have an expert opinion on that aspect, as well as an estimate of the approximate cost. So he heartily recommended that as a way to approach the infrastructure problem.
So, and I don't know, Sandy, Jean, if anybody remembers, I believe that it was up to $15,000 that we voted on, or was it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Yes.
Because I think that Guilford came in around $6,000, and they had fewer buildings than we did, so we went up to that 15,000.
Right.
So we've now combined two discussions, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I think they go hand in hand. So,
Can I update the board on the company? So,
please.
back on April 23rd, I received an email from Danielle Sweeney, who was with the engineering firm. It's Criterium Lancet and Dudka engineers. They're the people that did Guilford. Wanting to know when they could get going on a field work, to get going on the field work for the project. At that point, we were in the middle of COVID, and I had been trying to find get that other company to take a look too, so you'd have two bids. If you go back to March, we had discussed Dude Solutions, a facility dude. Now I've had emails back and forth with them, but nothing to any fruit. So I given that this particular firm was so highly recommended, I did reach back out to Danielle to let her know just recently that if she could contact me, and then I could come back to the board and we could perhaps start the field work on this project. Guilford was very pleased. I think they were $4,200 or $4,800 in Guilford at the end. So But that's the name of the firm. They're out of Rutland and they're ready to go at your convenience.
Now, this is not something that we can do before July 1, is it?
We might be able to get the field work done. And it's in the capital plan, so wouldn't that carry over anyways?
It's not in the that's not in the capital plan. That was voted on in our budget, wasn't it?
I
I think that was added to our budget.
Well, so what could happen, Mr. Chairman, if I could, if there's a contract signed for that amount, that money would be encumbered until the project was complete, if it got started before June 30th.
Yeah, we couldn't pay until then.
7-1.
Okay. I'm all for reaching back out to Danielle and asking them when we can get that scheduled.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that it's been voted on. We've all agreed on it. I think that we need to move forward on that.
I asked her to contact me next Monday when I'm back in the office for the day, so that's already been.
Unless anybody on the board objects, I would say that on Monday with your conversation, go ahead and give them the green light, please. Any objection to that?
No.
Could I have a vote on that, please?
I was voted on by the town of Vernon, so
They appropriated the money, but you're gonna approve the firm.
I believe we've already voted on that, didn't we? I'm not sure. I mean, we certainly can, but
So moved.
Thank you, Sandra.
I have a motion, please. Could I get a second?
My question is, where is this in the budget? Is it in our budget or is it in our capital plan?
I believe that it is in the select board budget.
We're under what line item?
Well, that's
Yeah,
a great,
well,
hold on.
Okay,
Carol's raising her hand. Let me unmute Carol,
good.
maybe.
Looking for my town report.
I don't know. Carol, are you able to go up to your upper right by your picture? There you go. Hi, Carol.
Hi, I would
Carol.
just like, I need to know the motion. Not so moved. I need a
Oh,
motion.
come on, Carol.
Sorry.
Tom, could you repeat the name of that firm, please, for Carol? Carol, the motion would read to approve moving forward with, Tom, you're up on the company name.
I just got rid, it was, hold on. Yeah, that would be, Criterium, Criterium, the Lancet, Lancette, in Dudka, Dudka, engineers.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not finding it in our budget.
So I think under general expenses, there's contracts, maintenance and repair,
Yeah,
because all of the groundkeeping, cleaning, snow removal, that's in buildings and grounds. So that's not those contracted services. But there's quite a chunk of money there. Right now, there's $15,000.
That must be it.
That ends June 30th.
Right.
And
But if
then
you're-
for next year is 26,400.
So that's got to be where
So-
we put it.
yeah.
Yeah, so we should, and I meant to ask Cindy to get a budget summary to know what has been spent out of these line items and what we have left, because maybe we want to get something cooking here
Yeah.
right off.
So this is to move forward with this firm to what?
Undertake a capital needs assessment.
To do a capital needs assessment?
Yes.
On town-owned buildings.
Okay.
And
Thank
it
you.
says 8 town buildings in their email to me.
Okay.
8. I thought we were up above 8. No, we have, because we were
1,
doing the
2.
town office, we were doing the North School,
Right. The
We were
DPW.
doing- the rec, the pavilion
The pavilion.
at the rec,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
the town office.
The shed across the street from the highway department.
Yeah, I'll call that the sand shed, which that is a building that I sent a picture of that desperately needs some attention.
Right.
We said the
Historic.
salt shed,
Museum,
salt shed,
Oh, the museum is one.
South School. We did not do the chapel because the historians own that, is that correct?
That's
right,
Right.
we don't own it.
So maybe any other buildings at the highway department besides the main garage?
We said the salt shed as well.
Okay.
Oh, and I guess
Fire
North
department.
School.
No, it's-
What about the fire department?
Oh, yes, yep, fire department. So that, I come up with 9 there, but
Are you, the elementary school was part of that?
No.
No.
No,
no,
the South School. I'm sorry. Yep.
Yep. So I'm coming up with 9. I have the
Right.
highway department, the rec, the pavilion, the town office building, the sand building. That's the one across 142, the salt shed, South School, North School, and the fire department.
I think we discussed not doing the sand shed because of its condition and age.
So at what point do we make a decision on that building and what we're going to do? Are we going to look at that building and have it painted so that it looks better? Or are we going to have them go over and knock it down with the loader that we just bought them? I mean, this is where I'm at, Gene. I'm right there with you. We cannot continue to allow our town property to look this way and to
Right.
expect anybody to take us seriously. Linda, please. This is where I needed you this evening, Linda. Go ahead.
That's the purpose of hiring this company.
Right.
You can sit here and we all have our own little pet things. There's people want the cupola painted and all this kind of stuff. That company, that's their job. They will come in and they will look at your properties. They will tell you what's wrong with them, what needs to be fixed. And then you can decide, and they'll tell you in what order they think it should be done, but you're the ultimate decider. So I would have them look at all the buildings. They're coming here anyway. Look at all the buildings. Let them evaluate all the buildings, let you know what condition they're in, and then you can make the decision at that time when you have some information. Right now, it's just, I look at this building and it bothers me. Jean looks at that one and it's an eyesore to her. And, it's all, we aren't professional people. These people are building structure people. They're professionals.
Well,
So-
I think if his bid only included 8, you need to ask him to increase it to 9.
Yeah, I mean, the intent was to go over everything,
It was.
I thought.
I thought it was at first, but then when he said 9, we had discussed the other one, but
Yeah. So, Linda, I absolutely respect what you just said. And my concern is more about the fire department, for instance, if we look up at the eaves or that soffit area, the amount of paint that is peeling and the amount of water that is running over that peeled paint, and the same on the backside of the highway department, again, up in the soffit eave area. The paint is coming off from it and that water is just pouring down over what is raw wood at that point. So yes, we need them to come in and let us know where we're at with our capital plan as far as projections and where we really need to be focused more and maybe not look at this direction. But I would think that we could all agree that if one of our town buildings is in need of a facelift with some paint or some general maintenance, that we don't need to wait for this company to tell us that. I'm saying that as a question. I know it didn't sound like it, but
I think if you have water running over soffits, you have more than just a paint problem.
Yeah.
You have a building.
I don't know, Sandra. I'll have to, I just sent, reach out to them from, from April. So I'm gonna have to follow up with them. They're to call me when I'm back in the office. And we're gonna move forward from there. I will know better, early next week.
so if this company comes out and says, I'll stay on the fire department. If this company comes out and says, wow, those soffits are in rough shape,